I want you guys to understand, this is all secondary. It's okay if you disagree with me because so many people do. But the main thing is to know how for sure, that you can get to heaven and heaven bound. Yep. And it's the most important thing ever. And it's how do you get to heaven? You need to understand that you're a sinner and that you're lost. And then when you do, you recognize you look for a savior, and that savior is none other than Jesus Christ. He is God's son. He led a sinless life. Thank you, Coffee. He led a sinless life. He died on the cross for your sins and for my sins. He was buried and he rose again on the third day. And the Bible says, for whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. It is unbelievable. For by grace you have been saved through faith. You are saved through faith, not through works, not through going to church, not through being a missionary, not through getting baptized, water baptized. For by grace you have been saved through faith. Very clear picture that you were given there. And so that is something to understand. The rest of this is secondary. And if you disagree, that's completely fine. But the important thing is to tell people about Jesus. And that's why I try to keep bringing it back to that. Preach it, man. I'm trying to do it the best that I can. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9 we're going to dive into this next part. Revelation chapter 9, we're going to be talking about the fifth trumpet. Thank you, Ty. Thank you for the gift. So thankful for Revelation again. I'm glad, Sheena. It's a good one. It's a good one. Good to tackle it again. But in Revelation, okay. So in Revelation chapter 9, we're going to be talking about the fifth trumpet. The fifth trumpet. And so what I want you to understand, we talked about just a minute ago, how the remaining three blasts of the trumpet judgments are sometimes referred to as the woe judgments. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 12 would be classified as the first woe judgment. So Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 12 is going to be talking about the woe judgment. You know how that angel in chapter 8 was like, whoa, 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 because there's three more woes. There's three more trumpet blasts that are coming. The first woe is what we're going to be tackling in chapter 9, verse 1 through 12. The second woe is going to be the following verses that finish chapter 9. And then the third woe is going to be basically the bowl which is going to break open the bowl judgments. And the bowl judgments that's just all bad. Okay, so let's work our way up to it. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 1, this is the first woe judgment. It says this, "Then the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit." Now, here is where, again, before I told you guys, many people say that this is Satan. I'm not like throwing any dirt on them or, whatever. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just telling you this is what I think. And so I'm not saying that they're right. Thank you for that gift. Thank you so much, Angel. And so it's just kind of important to come to your own conclusion. But I told you just a little bit ago why I believe it's not Lucifer. And I'll say it again just in case you joined. But if you read Revelation chapter 12, what you'll find is that it's not until Revelation chapter 12 that Lucifer is thrown out of heaven. And so here in Revelation chapter 8 and in Revelation chapter 9, you see two angels who were fallen from heaven. They were fallen. They fell from heaven. So it doesn't really make sense to me that these angels would be Lucifer, although that's like the popular thing to kind of conclude. I just don't see it that way, and that's okay if you disagree, that's fine. I just want you to be sensitive to that Lucifer is not cast out of heaven until Revelation chapter 12. So it's very, it's kind of... hey, blessings from Colorado. Thank you. Hello from Colorado. Hello, Marnie. What's up, Trucker Jeremiah? Good to see you, man. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1. Thank you, Tracy, for that gift. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1. It says, "Then the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth. To him," this angel, this star is clearly a him. "To him was given the key to the bottomless pit." Now, I think it's really important to understand what's really going on here. So this angel falls, and then after he falls from heaven, a key is given to him. I want you to always remember who is in control during these terrible things. This is on God's timing. This key was given to him. This angel didn't just fall and had to work for it. No, a key was given to him. And that's really important to understand because God's in control. And that's what's really cool about when Jesus was boots on the ground. And if you read the Gospels, what you'll find is that Jesus, when he was at the Last Supper and, all of his disciples were around him right before Judas betrays him, Judas was not supposed to betray Jesus. He wasn't supposed to do it on a feast day. If you remember, if you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, what you see is the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they all get together and we're like, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to take him away privately, but we're not going to do it on a feast day. That was their plan. And so what's interesting about this entire thing is that when you understand that they were not supposed to, the one rule that they had was to not arrest Jesus on a feast day. It wasn't until Jesus forced it into motion. He said, hey, Judas, what you do quickly. The disciples had no idea what he's talking about, but I want you to be sensitive to that. Who is in control of that entire thing? Jesus was on a divine schedule. It was a divine itinerary. He had places to be. He needed to fulfill all these things right when it needed to be fulfilled, and he pushed it in motion. And that's when he said what he said to Judas. Judas ran. He ran to mommy and daddy, and they got all the troops, got all the soldiers, and they went and arrested Jesus. And it was because of Jesus that they arrested him on a feast day. He's like, hey, you're playing my game. Even when Jesus was arrested, you need to recognize when they showed up and they're like, Jesus is like, who do you seek? And he's like, we seek Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus says, I am he. That is so cool. And then right when he said, I am he, they all fell down. It's just like, who do you think you're talking to here? It's just so cool to see this. And then they all get back up. They put their helmets back on. They're like, which one of y'all hit me? Kind of like in Rush Hour when Chris Tucker gets punched by one of the dudes. And he's just, which one of y'all, these guys get up, they put their helmets back on. And it is so cool to see how he knew what was going to happen. He's in control. With all that in mind, I want you to recognize what's happening here, because in Revelation chapter 9, this angel falls and then a key is given to him. What do you think this angel's going to do? He's going to go open the door. And so it's just cool to see this, who is in control. He's like, hey, now you can open up this bottomless pit. And so it's really fascinating when you read Revelation chapter 9, you see this angel that falls, a key is given to him, and then the bottomless pit is open. We talked about this bottomless pit. We read about this back in 2 Peter. And so there's different ideas as far as what this bottomless pit, kind of people have an idea. But some see this bottomless pit as a place of temporary confinement. It's a place of temporary confinement that the demons, if you guys remember back in Luke chapter 8, let's go back to Luke chapter 8, verse 31. Let's go to Luke chapter 8, verse 31. In Luke chapter 8, verse 31, you have these demons that show up to Jesus, and Jesus walks up to them, and the demons come up to him, and they begged Jesus. It says in Luke 8:31, it says, and they begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. So this abyss, this pit, this bottomless pit seems to be a temporary place of confinement. So those demons that were roaming the earth back then when Jesus was boots on the ground were begging to not go to this place that is about to be unlocked. And so what you see here in Revelation chapter 9 is that this key is given to this angel who was just fallen from heaven. A key is given to him. I don't know who gave it to him. Maybe it just showed up. But somebody hands him a key. He's like, here you go. That angel, that fallen angel, that demon goes and he unlocks that bottomless pit. The bottomless pit opens up. And then it says in verse 2, Revelation chapter 9, verse 2, it says, and he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. That is crazy. That is crazy. So this temporary confinement, this pit, is something that these demons are being held in temporarily. Now, what's interesting and important to remember is let's go to Matthew 25. Go to Matthew chapter 25 real fast. Go to Matthew chapter 25. Because in Matthew chapter 25, what you have is you have a whole bunch of parables, really, really cool chapter, very provocative. But at the end of Matthew chapter 25, you have the sheep and goat judgments. And so when you dive into what the sheep and goat judgments are, you're like, well, who are the sheep and who are the goats? Like, what is that representing? So just a quick flyby is that the people who make it through the tribulation, the Christians, so when the rapture occurs, there's not going to be a single Christian on the earth for a short amount of time. The whole world will be in darkness. And then little by little, everybody's going to wake up and they're going to be like, oh, what my grandma said was true, what my mom or dad said was true, what Ryan said was true, what all so-and-so you guys said, what you told them was true. And then they'll give their life to Christ, but they won't know much. But they're going to have to go through the tribulation. And so when they go through the tribulation, they're going to be hunted down, persecuted. Many of them are going to be ended. They're going to be unalived. So these Christians are going to be on the run, and they're going to be hiding. Many of them will be ended. But a lot of Christians will make it through the tribulation. And so the idea is like, well, who's the sheep and who are the goats? So you have the sheep and goat judgments that takes place at the end of the tribulation. And so who are the sheep? Well, the sheep are the Christians who literally survived 7 years of tribulation on earth. Can you imagine? Like, they're going to hand out t-shirts like, I survived the tribulation. like when you climb up Yosemite or whatever, you're like, I walked up, whatever, I survived the Appalachian, or I did a Tough Mudder, all these things, like I survived the Great Tribulation. They're going to get a t-shirt. No, my point is that these Christians, they're going to make it through the tribulation. And then at the end of the tribulation, they're going to show up at this thing called the sheep and goat judgments, which is where they're going to stand before the Lord. And he's going to separate the sheep on the right. And they're literally, those sheep, the Christians that are made it through the tribulation, are literally going to walk into the kingdom. It's unbelievable. Then the goats, which are on the left, they're going to go and they're going to be ended, and they're going to be cast into the lake of fire. But what's interesting, or I'm sorry, not the lake of fire, they're going to be cast into they're going to be cast into Hades. Now, we talked about the difference between, what's up, Katie? There's a difference between Hades and the lake of fire. Hades is a temporary place where all the people who died 5,000 years ago, who never gave their life to Christ or never accepted him as Lord and Savior, those people are still in Hades. They will be resurrected at the end, and they will stand before the great white throne judgment, and then they will be thrown into the lake of fire. Hades and the lake of fire are two very different things. Anyways, that's not the whole point. My point here is to get you to understand the whole reason for hell. Matthew chapter 25, verse 41. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 41, this is in context of the sheep and goat judgments. In Matthew 25, verse 41, this is what he's going to say to the goats, to the people who were in constant rebellion during this entire time. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 41, it says, "Then he will also say to those on the left hand, 'Depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels.'" So this everlasting fire was not prepared for you and I. It was prepared for them. But if the people who on earth right now who don't accept or acknowledge Jesus as Lord, that's what they have to look forward to. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking. What's up, Ryan Astudo? Hello. Okay, so that's important to remember. So going back to Revelation chapter 9, verse 2, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 2, it says, "And he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit, like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit." So what's interesting right now, as we're talking right now, it's good to remember that not all demons are confined, but those that are will be released here in verse 2. So when this happens, another darkness will occur. This woe judgment, this fifth trumpet judgment, this woe judgment releases what this is going to, what's happening here in Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 and 2, and what we're about to read. What's happening right now as this bottomless pit is opened up, it's releasing demons. So this is releasing a demonic invasion, and they are the fifth trumpet judgment. So this demonic invasion is going to be the fifth trumpet. Really, really fascinating. So when you dive into Revelation chapter 9, verse 3, let's unpack it a little bit. Revelation chapter 9, verse 3, it says, "Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power." Now what's interesting is to underline the word given. They were given power. They were allowed to do this. This is something that they were here to do. So just like that one angel was given a key, these demons or these locusts, which are not clearly, they're clearly not locusts. Remember their origin. What is their origin? The bottomless pit. So locusts aren't coming out of the bottomless pit. No, these aren't real locusts. These are demons. So these demons were given power. So in Revelation chapter 9, verse 4, it says, "They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth or any green thing or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads." Now, this is interesting because then the question naturally arises like, well, wait a second. Are the Christians going to be persecuted? The Christians that get born again during the tribulation, are these demonic things going to be able to torment them as well? Well, I mean, you can answer that both ways. Some would say that they won't, because when you get born again, then you'll have the seal of God on your foreheads. I would argue differently, because there's going to be a lot of Christians during the tribulation who actually get unalive, like taken their head removed. And so that's something to be sensitive to. And it's a very, very real situation. And so I think that these demonic entities will be able to basically torment everybody except for those 144,000. That's just my opinion. You can dive into it for yourself, but it's really crazy to see what's happening here. So it says, they were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth or any green thing or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man. So this is interesting. So these demons, during this fifth trumpet, this woe judgment that we're reading about, they only have power to torment. They don't have power to kill. They have power to torment. And they only have this power for 5 months. Now, what's interesting about this is that John normally does not give the duration of the judgments, but here he does. Here, he tells you very specifically and very clearly, he's like, hey, guess what? This whole situation with this demonic invasion right here, this is going to last for 5 months. That is very specific. That is so incredibly specific, it's unbelievable. He's like, these demons are only going to have power to do this, to torment men for 5 months. And then you get to verse 6, and you have this really, really strange verse. It says, in those days men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them. So not only will mankind not die from these demons, they also can't end their own lives. They won't be able to commit the word. You know what I'm saying? The thing. They won't be able to end themselves. That's something, and that's just really, really crazy. They will be required to endure this torment in all its fury. They're going to have to go through it. They're not going to be able to, they're going to try to escape by, ending themselves, and it's just not going to work. And now, like, how in the world is that going to, I don't know, but that's what the Bible says, and I believe it to be true. So there's people who are probably going to try, and it's just not going to work, and that is crazy. This is going to be, this world that we're describing right here in Revelation chapter 9, it's unlike anything that we've ever seen, and it's unlike anything that has been, or that will be. But let's read about these demons a little bit. In verse 7, Revelation chapter 9, verse 7, it says, the shape of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns of something like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. So clearly what you're seeing here, these are not locusts. We need to remember what their origin is. Their origin is the abyss, or the bottomless pit. So since their origin is the bottomless pit, their origin is that, if that's where they came from, their origin, they are demons. Verse 8, Revelation 9, verse 8, it says they had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. And they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. So what's interesting about this is what obviously John is using the word like. He's using the word like. It's like this. It's not this, but it's like that. And so he's telling you the best that he can to the best of his ability. He's like, I've never seen this before, but I'm going to try to describe it to you as much as I possibly can. It's like something that you and I can relate to, but it's not exactly that. It's like that. So these are not normal locusts, but he's using lion, he's using horses. And so what's interesting about this is that he's describing fallen angels. And what's interesting about that is that angels seem to have animal-like features. They have animal-like features, what we're reading about here in Revelation chapter 9, like a lion, like horses, all that kind of stuff. And this is in comparison to what we read about when we were in the throne room. Because when we were in the throne room, go back to Revelation chapter 4. If in Revelation chapter 4, verse 7, we learn about the seraphim. And in Revelation chapter 4, verse 7, Revelation 4:7, it says the first living creature was like a lion. The second living creature was like a calf. The third living creature had the face of a man, and the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle. So these angels, whether good angels or bad angels, have animal-like characteristics. And that's really interesting. Whether they're good or bad, they have animal-like characteristics. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 9. In Revelation chapter 9, it says, Revelation chapter 9, verse 10, it says, they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. Their power was to hurt men 5 months. So these demons have power for 5 months, but then we get to verse 11, and it says, and they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. Now the name Abaddon or Apollyon is the word that you and I would use as destroyer or destruction. Really, really interesting diving into this. Again, there are people who say that this is Lucifer, and I would just, you can make an argument for it. I think that this is actually an actual demon king. If you guys remember let's go to Daniel chapter 10. I did a little TikTok video on this like a couple days ago, just to to get you to see it a little bit. But in Daniel chapter 10, you gain so much information from Daniel 10, it's ridiculous. In Daniel chapter 10, Daniel is praying and fasting for 21 days, and this angel, unbeknownst to Daniel, was trying to reach Daniel. So this angel is trying to get to Daniel to deliver a message, but he's unable to get to Daniel for 21 days because another demon was withstanding him. So imagine I'm Daniel, and back here there's an angel and a demon fighting, and this angel's just trying to get to me to tell me something, but this demon is like preventing that angel from getting by. He's playing defense, he's trying to play offense, all these things. And so it's really interesting because in Daniel chapter 10, verse 12, this angel says this. It says, Daniel 10, verse 12, it says, then he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. And behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left alone there with the kings of Persia. So you have this whole hierarchy that's involved here. You have princes, the prince of Persia, you have the kings of Persia, you have the princes and the kings of Persia. You have a whole bunch of stuff going on, and they're clearly not normal human beings. Like, this angel is not being withstood by some human. No, this angel that was trying to reach Daniel was being withstood by a demon prince. This dude was a bad news bear type of guy. And so what I want you to understand is that if there was a prince of Persia, which is modern day Babylon, or modern day Iran, prince of Persia, prince of Iran. Back then they called it Persia. Today we call it Iran. There is still a prince of Iran in existence right now. Who is the God of this world? Who is the prince of the power of the world, this age? That's Lucifer. And so it's really, really interesting to see this kind of stuff. But what you understand is that this angel wasn't allowed or wasn't able to get by this demon king or this demon prince until Michael showed up. And so anyways, when you compare the two and you go back to Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, you see that this king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon. In Greek, he has the name Apollyon. I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that this is just another demon king. This is a bad dude. Like, this dude is bad, right? Like, and so if you understand Daniel 10 and you apply it to here, you can see how it might not be Lucifer. And it's not a big deal. I'm just trying to get to broaden understanding a little bit so that you can make your own opinion on it. Okay, so let's go back to Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 12, it says, one woe is past. Behold, still 2 more woes are coming after these things. Okay, so this whole thing that we just completed, Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 12, that was one woe. So that's one woe, or one trumpet blast. So that's the fifth trumpet that was blown. That's a bad one. So now with the idea or understanding of recognizing that that he was describing a demonic invasion, now when you go back to Revelation chapter 8, verse 13, and you rethink that whole idea where that angel is flying through the heavens and he says, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Now it makes so much more sense, because when you're like, well, now that angel, now when you look at like what the first trumpets were, it doesn't seem that bad. But when you compare it to this demonic invasion, then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, this is terrifying. This trumpet is so terrifying compared to what's going on in Revelation chapter 8, verse 1 through 12. So much different, so much worse. So you have this demonic invasion. So in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12, it says, one woe is past. Behold, still two more woes are coming after this. So this woe that we just finished in Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 12, this woe lasts for 5 months. He tells you how long this woe is going to last. This whole woe is going to last for 5 months. It's going to take 5 months to complete. That is crazy. Now, what's interesting after this one woe is that after this 5 months is finally completed, what may happen, the earth may feel relief for a minute. They might feel relief finally, like, oh, okay, they stopped. Like, I don't see them anymore. Okay, seems like they're gone. But then the second woe is coming. And that's what we're about to get into right now, which is Revelation chapter 9, verse 13. So in Revelation chapter 9, verse 13, hey, Glenn, I'm glad you appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Yeah, if you guys are interested, all of this is uploaded to YouTube. There's a YouTube link up here. I'm also streaming over here on YouTube too. So I only have 2 platforms. I have TikTok and YouTube. If you're looking for a verse-by-verse Bible study, maybe check us out here on YouTube. I upload all of them up on YouTube. So if you're looking for a verse-by-verse, chapter-by-chapter, book-by-book study, go check it out. Thank you, Amber. Yep, that's it, pinned right there. ITZ_shoosh. Hey, thank you, Jules. Thank you for the gift. I really appreciate it. Thank you. But now we're going to get into Revelation chapter 9, verse 13. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 13, it's really, really cool and also terrifying to, like, this is just unbelievable what we're reading. Like, it belongs in a sci-fi movie almost. Like, it's so all over the place, right? Okay, so let's get on into it. Revelation chapter 9, verse 13. This is going to be the 6th trumpet. And the 6th trumpet is the second woe judgment. Okay, so this trumpet is the woe judgment. This is a bad one, okay? So let's, Revelation chapter 9, verse 13. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 13, it says, then the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Okay, so this is really interesting. So when this trumpet is blown, the 4 angels that are bound at the Euphrates, they're going to be released. These 4 angels, and what's interesting about these 4 angels is that these 4 angels seem to be the leaders of the second demonic invasion. So what I want you to, just to kind of get your mind wrapped around what we're reading here in Revelation chapter 9, is in Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 through 12, the bottomless pit is opened up and all of these demons come out. It's a demonic invasion. It's like a smaller one. They're not allowed to kill. They're just allowed to torment. That was Revelation 9, verse 1 through 12. That was the first woe judgment. Now, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 13, this 6th trumpet is blown. And when the 6th trumpet is blown, the 4 angels are released from the river Euphrates. And when these 4 angels are released, these 4 angels seem to be the leaders of the second demonic invasion. So the invasion in verse 1 through 12, that invasion was led by one angel. That one angel was called Abaddon or Apollyon. So you have one leader, one fallen angel leading a demonic invasion. You have Apollyon leading a demonic invasion. That lasts for 5 months. Then they go away somewhere. And then after they go away, then the sixth trumpet is blown. And then the 4 angels are then released, and those 4 angels are the 4 leaders for a huge army that are going to be following them. Thank you, Blue Pearl. And they are going to be leading a huge army, and this army is going to be able to kill. So the first demonic invasion, they're only allowed to torment. They're not allowed to kill. The second demonic invasion will be allowed to kill. So you have 2 things going on. One demonic invasion with 1 fallen angel leading it. The second demonic invasion with 4 angels being the leaders. 1 being allowed to torment and not to kill, and 1 being allowed to torment and to kill. It's a whole different thing. And so it's really, really remarkable studying this kind of stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep on reading. Revelation chapter 9, verse 14. It says, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Verse 15. It says, so the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Now that's crazy. So we can contrast that just so you can see it. Let's go back to Revelation 9, verse 5. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 5, the first demonic invasion, it says in Revelation 9, verse 5, it says, and they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them. So that was the first demonic invasion. But this one, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 15, it says they were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. That is crazy. That is crazy. So these angels were specifically prepared for this hour, this day, this month, this year, and they were specifically released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Now that's very interesting. Again, a third. You have 1/3 judgments with these blasts of the trumpets. Now let's contrast that to, let's go to Revelation chapter 6, verse 8. I'm sorry, Revelation chapter 4. Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6, verse 8. Yeah, go to Revelation chapter 6, verse 8. Because in Revelation chapter 6, verse 8, what you find, thank you, Blue Pearl. In Revelation chapter 6, verse 8, what you find is, in Revelation chapter 6, you have the seal judgments. Any idea why it's 1/3? No, I don't. I think it's just like leading up. It's just like little bit, kind of trying to wake people up as much as they possibly can be. I think it's just like one long altar call, really. Thank you, Monique. But in Revelation chapter 6, verse 8, what you have is the seal judgments. In Revelation 6, verse 8, it says, so I looked and behold a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over 1/4. So here you have 1/4. Thank you, Ed King. So a power was given to them over 1/4 of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. So here in Revelation 6, verse 8, this seal judgment, this horse, this death, this pale horse rider, had power to kill over 1/4. And that's crazy. So if in Revelation chapter 6, 1/4 of mankind killed, that's wild. And then when you couple that 1/4 being gone, and now, so let's say there's 100 people, in Revelation chapter 6, that angel had killed 25% of them. That means that we're down to 75 people. So now we're down to 75 people, and then you get to Revelation chapter 9, verse 15, and in Revelation chapter 9, verse 15, it tells you that these demons are going to kill 1/3 of those 75 people. I don't know what 1/3 of 75 is. I don't know. I can't do it. My mind hurts. But it's not good. And so now you're seeing how gory and how real this actually is. This is a very big deal. These are numbers. These are very real people. These are. I know, Lisa. Thank you, guys. I think I was being a little bit too serious there. No, I know it. I know what it is. Sometimes they're making fun of me over here. Blocked. But what I want you to understand is I want you to recognize how serious this whole situation actually is. This is death. Like, this is just gore. This is bodies in the streets. This is not being buried. The smell of of dead bodies, like, reeking all over the place. It is going to be like like anything else. And so it says they were released to kill a third of mankind. It is unbelievable. Okay, so let's talk about this. These demons, what do we know about them? Well, the source of these angels, the source of this invasion is the Euphrates River. So the source, where they come from, is the Euphrates River. Now, the Euphrates River is not located in China. And so we're going to be talking about these 200 million man army. And I want you to just recognize, like, kind of try to keep things in context, because, you know, a popular opinion here is to basically bring in China into this conversation. But when you remember where the source of this invasion comes from, or where it stems from, or where it flows from, it's flowing from the river Euphrates. And that is not in China, it's in Mesopotamia, which is the land between two rivers. And what's also interesting about Mesopotamia is that Mesopotamia is ancient Babylon. And what ancient Babylon, when you think about ancient Babylon, what you think about that is the place that is connected to all kinds of demonism. It is all kinds of evil and bad types of stuff that is attached to Babylon. And so if you read Isaiah 13, Isaiah 14, Jeremiah 51 or 50 and 51, and Revelation 17 and 18, what you'll find is you'll learn a lot about Babylon. And so Babylon is just rooted in all kinds of wrong, evil types of stuff. And so when you look at this, the source of this invasion being from the Euphrates River, it's like, okay, well, now you have to come to a conclusion of what kind of army is being described here. And so that's what we're going to unpack here. So let's dive into it. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 16, the question on the table is, what kind of army is this? Is this a human army or is this a demonic army? I would propose to you that this army is going to be a demonic army. So that's where we're going with it. You can be the judge. Let's unpack it. Revelation chapter 9, verse 16, John says, now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow. And the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions. And out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouths. Now, this is unbelievable. So some believe that this 200 million man army speaks of China. But these horses in verse 16 and 17, where it says the horsemen, and it talks about horses, these horses in verse 16 and 17 are connected to demons. We've already have established that. Let's go to Revelation chapter 9. Let's turn the page back and go to verse 7. Revelation chapter 9, verse 7. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 7, since we've already established this, thank you, Yogi. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 7, it says, the shape of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. So you see how these demons, these locusts, are being connected to horses. He says these locusts was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns of something like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. Now go down to verse 9. Revelation chapter 9, verse 9. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 9, it says they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. My whole point is to get you to see that this 200 million man army is probably not an actual legitimate, like, people holding spears and walking and like in ranks and all this kind of stuff. I would argue differently. I think now that I'm diving into it a lot more, I believe that this is a demonic invasion that he is describing here, because he says that out of their mouths come fire, smoke, and brimstone. And so some people say that he's describing like airplanes and like, you know, like it's shooting out rockets and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but still, like 200 million of them, like that, I don't see that. And so the only way to rationalize this in my mind is to actually associate it with an actual demonic army, a demonic invasion. And it makes a lot more sense when you read the first 12 verses of Revelation chapter 9, 1 through 12, which describes the bottomless pit being opened up and all these demons coming out. And then when you build on top of that foundation, then you walk right into this 200 million man army, which is so much worse. And that's why the angel that is flying through the heavens is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because the first woe was bad, but if you thought that was bad, wait till you get to the second woe, because if you thought that was bad, wait till you get to the third woe. And it's just crazy how it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So this just makes so much more sense. Would you rather face a demonic army, or would you rather face human army? I would rather face a human army, because I know what I'm dealing with, right? And so that's why I believe if you see the verse 1 through 12 as being demonic, then the verse 13 through 21 seems to fit the picture as well. So anyways, that's just my stance on that. You can take it or leave it. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Hopefully it does make sense. Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Ryan Asuto. Very, very interesting. But let's, okay. Where are we at? Okay, so in verse 17 through 19, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 17 through 19, the description of the army, this description rules out the possibility of human army, but supports a demonic army. It seems to make the most sense to me. There's people who associate, let's go to Revelation chapter 16. Go to Revelation chapter 16, verse 12. Because in Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, it talks about these kings of the east. In Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, it says, "Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the ways of the kings from the east might be prepared." So what I want you to understand is that the kings of the east in Revelation 16:12, they're not connected to this army, because in Revelation chapter 9, this is a part of the bowl judgments. In Revelation chapter 16, in Revelation chapter 9, this is part of the trumpet judgments. In Revelation chapter 16, that's a part of the bowl judgments. Those are two very different things. One happens here in this point and place of time, and the other happens later on in this place of time. They are not the same thing. So they are not connected. So in Revelation chapter 9, what we're reading about this 200 million man army, even though it's connected to the Euphrates, it's not the same thing as what takes place in Revelation chapter 16. Those are very distinct from one another. One is the trumpet judgments, one is the bowl judgments, two separate things. So, that's good to recognize. But those are two different events at two different times. Okay, so going back to Revelation chapter 9, we're talking about this 200 million man army. A passage that seems to describe this a passage that seems to describe these two demonic invasions is found in Joel chapter 1. Let's go to Joel chapter 1, verse 15. Joel chapter 1, verse 15. Squirrel. Joel chapter 1. Joel chapter 1, verse 15. So we'll stay here for a little bit, because I think this is pretty good. I think it's rather instructive as far as what took place back in the Old Testament and how much information he had, all the light that he had. Let's read Joel chapter 1, verse 15. We're going to read from Joel chapter 1, verse 15 all the way to Joel chapter 2, verse 11. Okay? Hey, thank you, McCrae. You too. In Joel chapter 1, verse 15, it says this: "Alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as destruction from the Almighty. Is not the food cut off before our eyes? Joy and gladness from the house of our God. The seed shrivels under the clods. Storehouses are in shambles. Barns are broken down, for the grain has withered. How the animals groan! The herds of cattle are restless because they have no pasture. Even the flocks of sheep suffer punishment. O Lord, to you I cry out, for fire has devoured the open pastures, and a flame has burned all the trees of the field. The beasts of the field also cry out to you, for the water brooks are dried up, and fire has devoured the open pastures. Blow the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming, for it is at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, Like the morning clouds spread over the mountains, a people come great and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor will there ever be any such after them. Even for many successive generations, a fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Surely nothing shall escape them. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and like swift steeds so they run. With a noise like chariots over mountaintops they leap, like the noise of a flaming fire that devours the stubble, like a strong people set in battle array. Before them the people writhe in pain, and all faces are drained of color. They run like mighty men. They climb the wall like men of war. Everyone marches in formation, and they do not break ranks. They do not push one another. Everyone marches in his own column. Though they lunge between the weapons, they are not cut down. They run to and fro in the city. They run on the wall. They climb into the houses. They enter at the windows like a thief. The earth quakes before them. The heavens tremble. The sun and moon grow dark, and the stars diminish their brightness. The Lord gives voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for strong is the one who executes his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can endure it? You see, you have this passage here, which is just absolutely mind-blowing as far as like, what is he talking about? Joel wrote this centuries before John, who wrote Revelation, was even born. It is unbelievable to see this type of thing happening. It is so interesting. But what Joel is actually talking about here is, it seems to be very clear, and I hope you guys can see it if you guys have been paying attention to what we've been talking about in Revelation chapter 9. It seems that what he's describing here in Joel chapter 1 verse 15 through chapter 2 verse 11, it seems that he's describing this demonic invasion from Revelation chapter 9. That's what it seems like he's doing. You're seeing the connection. So let's unpack it. So what he's talking about here, he's saying in Joel chapter 1 verse 15, it says, "Alas for the day of the Lord is at hand." Now, we've talked about this a million times, but in case you missed it, there are two different days that are going on. You have the day of Christ, and you have the day of the Lord. The day of Christ is a great thing. If you're a born-again believer, you are going to take part of the day of Christ. That will culminate at the Bema seat, the judgment seat of Christ, which is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 2 Corinthians chapter 5:10. You can go check it out. The day of Christ is a good thing. But what we're reading about here in Joel chapter 1 verse 15, we're not talking about the day of Christ. We're talking about something completely different. We're talking about the day of the Lord. That is terrifying. And so the day of the Lord is all bad. You don't want to be a part of it. It's also important to understand that it's not just a 24-hour period. The day of the Lord is just it's an umbrella kind of term. It's like, hey, it's going to take place from here and it's going to end all the way over here. And so it's a large portion. You and I measure time in days and months and years and whatever, in seconds and minutes and hours, but that's not necessarily what this is talking about. So the day of the Lord, some people believe that the day of the Lord begins right when the tribulation starts. So right when the tribulation starts, that's essentially when the day of the Lord begins. The day of the Lord will not end until the end of the millennial kingdom. Why? Because at the end of the millennial kingdom, that's when Satan gets released from the bottomless pit. He goes and tries to deceive everybody. He gets an army to go against those who are living in unwalled villages, and then fire comes down and devours them, and then boom, they're done. So from the start of the tribulation all the way to the end of the millennial kingdom could be what the day of the Lord is referring to. And so here in Joel chapter 1 verse 15, he's talking about the day of the Lord is at hand, which means it's in arm's reach. It is right there. And so then he goes on and he describes a whole bunch of things that we've been talking about already, because in Joel chapter 1 verse 16, It says, is not the food cut off from our eyes? The seed shrivels under the clods. Storehouses are in shambles. Barns are broken down, for the grain has withered. How the animals groan. The herds of cattle are restless because they have no pasture. Even the flocks of sheep suffer punishment. What he's describing here is what took place in Revelation chapter 6. What took place in Revelation chapter 6? Remember the horsemen. You had the white horse, which was the Antichrist. You have the red horse, which was anarchy. You have the black horse, which held the scales, which talks about famine. These animals that Joel is talking about, there's no food. There's a scarcity of food. There's a famine going on. That's what Joel is seeing. He's paralleling what John would write centuries later on. So John and Joel are writing about kind of the same thing here, just in their own kind of ways. They're describing certain things. It's really fascinating. But then when you continue, so Joel's description of the tribulation, in verse 16, you have the food being scarce. In Joel chapter 1, verse 18, it describes the devastation on the livestock. And then in Joel chapter 2, verse 1 through 11, you see the demonic invasion. And then in Joel chapter 2, verse 1, the alarm is sounded, which announces the approaching army of the demons. There's going to be alarm sounded. Sound the alarm. Here they come. Look at them. They're jumping over mountains. Are you kidding me? And it's so interesting. You know, some people see that this is robotics, some kind of AI technology, which very well could be. I mean, AI. Very fascinating what Elon has said before. He's like messing with AI is like summoning demons. So they could be building AI robots, technology, and then these demons could possess them. The demons are always looking for something to possess. That's why in the book of Matthew, when Jesus shows up and he talks to that demon-possessed man, that man says, "Can we go into the swine?" And then Jesus is like, go. And so they went and they possessed that swine. But they first had to get they first had to get permission to possess that swine. And so these demons are looking to possess something. So possibly it could be something AI related, but also it very well could be the things that came out of the bottomless pit. There could be more. But my point here is to get you to see this huge aerial view that's going all over the place. Now let's go to Joel chapter 2, verse 4. In Joel chapter 2, verse 4, it says, their appearance is like the appearance of horses. Now, doesn't that sound very familiar after all that we talked about before in Revelation chapter 9, where he's talking about, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 17, he talks about the horses. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 16, it says, now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. So you're seeing horses being connected in what seems to be very clearly talking about a demonic invasion. Okay, and so in going all the way back to what we're talking about in Revelation chapter 9, just to kind of do a little bit of a flyby, just to kind of reset and refocus on everything. In at the end of Revelation chapter 8, what you find is that the angel flies in heaven and he's like, whoa, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth because of the remaining 3 blasts. So he's giving this huge warning to the people on earth, saying it's about to get real bad. And so then when you read Revelation chapter 9, you see the bottomless pit being opened up and all these things come out of the bottomless pit. That's the first demonic invasion. And they're going all over the place, doing all kinds of things. They only had power to torment men for 5 months. And so that was for 5 months. And so then as 1 month goes by, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, then it's finally completed. Then the 6th trumpet is blown, and that's when the 4 angels are released from the river Euphrates. And then they get their 200 million man army, and that seems to be what Joel is talking about in Joel chapter 1, verse 15 to Joel chapter 2, verse 11. And so he's describing what it's like. He's like, they're literally jumping over the mountains. They're running on the walls. Can you imagine this kind of crap? I'd be like, like in Tropic Thunder, like where he's got just like 2 guns. Say hello to my little, it's not going to work that way. Anyways, focus. You guys getting out of control. Okay, so Revelation, moving back to reality here. Revelation chapter 9, I'm so sorry. Revelation chapter 9. In Revelation chapter 9, I don't even know where we stopped. Revelation chapter 9, verse 18. In Revelation chapter 9, Revelation chapter 9, verse 18, it says, by these 3 plagues, a third of mankind was killed, by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails are like serpents having heads, and with them they do harm. Seems to be clearly painting a picture of a demonic army. Very fascinating. You can be the judge of that. That's just what I believe. But in verse 20, Revelation chapter 9, verse 20 says, but the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues did not repent of the works of their hands, that they should not worship demons and idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood, which can neither see nor hear nor walk. And they did not repent of their murders or their sorceries or their sexual immorality or their thefts. Really interesting here. In Revelation chapter 20, it talks about idol worship because it talks about worshiping demons and idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood, which can neither see nor hear nor walk. Now, this is kind of paraphrasing. Let's go to Psalm 115, verse 1. Psalm chapter 115. Go to Psalm 115, verse 1. We've been here a handful of times before, but we're here again. In Psalm 115, verse 1, the psalmist says this. Psalm 115, verse 1, it says, not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but to your name give glory, because of your mercy, because of your truth. Why should the Gentiles say, so where is their God? But our God is in heaven. He does whatever he pleases. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they do not speak. They have eyes they have, but they do not see. They have ears, but they do not hear. Noses they have, but they do not smell. They have hands, but they do not handle. Feet they have, but they do not walk, nor do they mutter through their throat. Those who make them are like them. So is everyone who trusts in them. O Israel, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. It's just like unbelievable. So he's talking about these people, like idol worship is going on. These people are literally doing this kind of stuff. You think that that's such an Old Testament type of thing. Thank you, Coffee. Oh, that's very, thank you so much. Flying Jet. Thank you. Thank you so much. But it's really remarkable seeing this kind of stuff. You see this idol worship that's going on, and it's really something to be sensitive to, because it's not just happening on back then, it's still going on today. And so if it was happening then, it's still going on today, and it's going to be going on during the tribulation. And these people who make it through this demonic invasion, the people who survive by something like that, you come to this realization of being like, oh my goodness, this is real. And so these people, you see how hard their hearts are. They are not repentant. At the first thing that, like, if you see this kind of stuff happening in your world, the first thing you'd be doing is that you should be falling on your face and like asking God to save you. These people do not do that. They do not repent of their works, of their hands. They do that they should not worship demons and idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood, which can neither see nor hear nor walk. And they did not repent of their murders or their sorceries. That's interesting. The word sorcery there is pharmakeia. This is talking about drug use. Pharmakeia or sorcery, pharmakeia. Pharmakeia. What word naturally comes to your mind when you start thinking of pharmakeia? You think of pharmacy or pharmaceuticals. And so when you think of pharmaceuticals with what's going on in our world today, I mean, the whole medical field is completely broken. You break your leg and they're just going to start throwing some oxy at you and be like, here you go, pop these like Tic Tacs. And next thing you know, people are just hooked on them. Like, it's just crazy. It's heartbreaking to see how many people, but like, you can go on and on about that kind of stuff, but it says they did not repent of their murders or their sorceries or their sexual immoralities or their thefts. I think it's very interesting that thefts is mentioned there. I think that if you and I were writing this book, we would not have mentioned theft, because you and I see theft as it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. We're talking about some pretty serious stuff, but here it's mentioned. And I think that's very interesting. Again, at least for me, shows you that my opinion on things, there's things that are here that are not, that I would probably expect to be mentioned as far as bad things, but they're not mentioned. Things that are on the list that are, okay, I can see that being there, but then what about this? What about this bad one? What about this bad one? How come theft is on there? That's strange. Okay, so that's Revelation chapter 9. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. Hopefully it does. Hopefully it was rather clear.